Welcome back, guys. My name is Austin from awfulmedia.com, and this is part 10 or 11, I'm not too sure, of the Making a Simple Game in Unity tutorial series. Now, in this part, we are going to start our level selection overworld thing. We're kind of going to be looking at an overworld selection that's a little bit like the new Mario World on the Wii U. The difference is with that Mario game compared to previous Mario games is that the level selection in the overworld view is not, your navigation is not restricted by a path. It's not restricted by a node system of any kind. You walk, you get near an object, you hit a button, you go to that level. And it's really simple. And I like that. The old school Mario World Select system isn't difficult to do. That's not what we're doing in the other system. It's just we're not going to, it's not going to benefit this series much to go over a whole new navigation system where that we are navigating based on nodes where we can walk left or right at or up and down different intersections. That's not going to benefit us much. So I think we're going to focus on a more simple approach, get this game finished, and then move on to something else. Before we do that, I was asked very, very, very recently, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, if it was possible to create a game similar to that of Flappy Bird. Now, if you're familiar with Flappy Bird, you were probably familiar with all the crap going on with it, and I don't want to talk about that, but you can pretty much make any kind of game in Unity that you can think of. It's not limited to a specific genre. You know, you don't have to do an FPS. You don't have to do a side-scrolling platformer. You don't have to do this weird cube walking around other cube game. You don't have to do that. You can do pretty much anything. And I say pretty much because I don't want to guarantee everything is possible. But I do feel that if you are capable of making that game, then you can do it in Unity. Unity is just as capable as you are. And that's why the whole, your only limit is your imagination thing kind of applies here. So before we start with this though, and I want to say one more thing. This, the World Select will be broken up into multiple parts. I don't want to do, one big hour-and-a-half long video. So it may be a few 15-minute videos, 10-minute videos. I don't know. They'll be pretty short though. And then we'll break them up into separate parts and get them out that way. But I want to show you, just to prove that you can do a game like Flappy Bird, I made a quick prototype. I probably spent an hour and a half on this so far. A lot of polish to go before it is, Flappy Bird is done well. What it does well, right? So I'm not saying what I made in an hour and a half is as good as Flappy Bird. But it will show you that you can make Flappy Bird really in not much time. I still have quite a bit of work to do to this game so that it reaches the quality of Flappy Bird. I'm not saying quality as in it's a complex game or anything, but it's just right. It feels right, and it works well. So this is what I have so far. And it's ugly. There's no graphics, but the controls are down. The level generation is pretty much done. I'm working on tweaking it a bit to make it pretty much resemble the Flappy Bird game. But for now, it works pretty well. So all I do is I don't have the pause at the beginning where it says tap to start, and that's a simple thing to throw in. I've not done anything that is on that level of simplicity because that would have wasted my time. So little things like that, not necessary to show off the capabilities of Unity. Watch this. Here we go. It's pretty much Flappy Bird. Now at the beginning, I generated a lot. I'm just clicking on the screen instead of tapping. Now at the beginning, I generate a lot of these pipes. It's slower. The bird doesn't react the same as the other bird, and that's fine. That's just tweaking. All I have to do is tweak it now. The point is that the game is, you can make Flappy Bird. It's very possible. The pipe generation is random, so it's never going to be the same when you play through it. It generates at the beginning, since I don't have the runtime generation perfect yet, it generates over 1,000 pipes, which is that little stutter at the start, which I will get rid of once I finish the runtime generation. And the only difference is that I have to detect the the way I was doing it, or I am doing it, is detecting the score. When you get to a certain score and want to add in, a few more pipes, and just keep doing that as far as you go. That way it'd always be an infinite game, but never have more than you need. So just generate about 10 extra off screen, and then when you get to 5 more, generate some more. And that's going to be the basis for how this game works. Now, the reason I did this is not to show off my awesome programming capabilities, because it's very, very poor. But I'm going to release this on awfulmedia.com. After I finish it up, I want to finish it up, add some polish to it, and add in some of the features that are required to make it a game. But I will release it on awfulmedia.com so you can download it, check it out, see what's actually going on, see how the control system works, see how the generation works, and get an idea of how to do it yourself. And I obviously suck at it. And I'll also implement the high score system that they have. I won't be doing it for the Android high score thing or the Apple high score thing, whatever those two things are. But I will be doing it, saving it to the computer, and then you can convert it to Android if you want to. Very simple to do, and just change the input methods, and then figure out how to access the Google Play thing. And that'll be that. So whenever this is finished up, I will tweet and post on YouTube. Not a video, but I might do a video to show you how to use it. So look forward to that if you want to do your own Flappy Bird game for whatever reason. I guess it'll be fun to mess around with. I don't know, but I just got a request for it, and I thought I would try it out myself. Because I said I could make it in a day. I told that guy that, yeah, it's possible, and I could do it in a day. And I did this in an hour and a half, so, it is possible. Give me a few more hours, and it'll be pretty good. That's not what we're here for. So what I want to do is go to Open Project, go back to Go Home, load this game up, and now what we want is a way to access different levels in its own world. So you're walking through this world, and if you've checked out Mario World on the Wii U, you'll notice that it's just a 3D world. You can walk anywhere. When you get near an object that represents a node for a level, say you're in World 1, Level 1, and then you're near the Level 1 node. When you get to a certain distance from it, it'll say, I don't really know how the game is exactly on this, but it'll say something like, press a button to go to this world, go to this level, and then you would hit the button and you would load that level. And that's what we're going to be doing, something simple like that. So we're going to start that in this video, and then in the next video or two, finish it up. We're going to get the progression system, so you have to unlock levels to access more levels. And we're going to get the, whatever. We'll figure it out. I've not done this yet, so we're just going to do it or I'll figure it out as we go. First things first, though. Level 2 and Level 3 do not have tokens in them. So I'm going to delete these. Go to Level 1 and just hit Control-D twice. Control-D twice. And get those back. Now they're duplicates of Level 1, so they will have the correct coins or the correct tokens within them. Next, go to my scripts folder here, and I'm going to go to the... No, we won't do that. We won't use the game manager for the world. So I will go to my levels. I will go to Level 3 and duplicate that, and I will call this World Select. And that will be the name of that scene. Open that up. Now, I do not need tokens. Don't need the map. I don't need these spikes. I'm just clicking on them, hitting hitting delete on the keyboard to get rid of them. I don't need the ogre. I don't need the goal. I don't need the game manager. I don't need, what do I not need? I don't need the patrol points. Get rid of those. But I do need the player, the lighting, the floor, and the camera. So we'll leave that as is. Now, I'm going to select the floor. We're going to make this pretty big, about 100 by 100. That's the Y. Oh goodness, what was that? Okay. And then make this 100. That's huge, but for now that'll work. I'll make it more linear, so we'll do like a 50. And then we'll do a 50 on this, and then 100 on that. That'll work for me for now. So, we're going to just place a few nodes in the world, and then make them direct to a level. And that will be that for this video. In the next video, we'll be focusing more on, unlocking the levels and stuff like that. and representing the fact that levels are locked or unlocked with some kind of visual cue. So now let's go ahead and go to Game Object, Create Other, and go to Cube. And this cube is going to be 2 times the size of our player. 2 times the size of our player. But I want to detect if the player is around the cube, not if he runs into the cube. And we could do that by finding our player's position and then finding our cube's position and then getting the distance between those vectors. And if that vector is less than a certain value, then we'd say, yeah, the player is close enough to this cube. And that's pretty simple, right? But we're going to be looking at using a trigger collider around this cube, so we can go over a few different methods using the actual physics components. Now I'm going to look for a box collider once again. Now this object has 2 box colliders, and there's not really much wrong with that. At least with this one being a trigger, I know there's not going to be any issues coming up. You don't take my word on it about them being both physical interactions, not being triggers. There may be some issues with that. I'm not too sure, but I don't think there would be. Now this one with being a trigger, we're not going to run into it. We're just going to detect when the player has hit it, but not stop the player from walking in that direction. And the size of this one's going to be probably 3 times this cube, so 3, 3, 3. And we don't have to go on the Y, though. That'll be okay like that. So now when the player is within this perimeter, within this bounding box here, we will allow the player to hit a button and then load that level up. And that's really all there is going to be to this video. I'm going to drag this down to the floor. I will get it. Let's go ahead and center this in the world just like that. And now I'm going to go to my scripts folder, right click, go to create, and I want to create a C# script. This is going to be a level loader. May not be the best name for a class, but that will be the name of this class. Open that up. Get rid of my Flappy Bird stuff. Now, with this class, what we're going to be doing is creating a couple, maybe just one public property. It's going to be an integer called level2load. And the reason we're doing that is because we will be attaching this class as a component to our level nodes. And then on each node, we'll define what level it should be loading when the player interacts with it. First of all, I'll just hit Control S. I don't know what that is, but keep line endings. And I will go to Unity, and on our node here, I'll make sure I name this node. I will drag the level loader and drop it on the node. And I'll say this one should load level 1. And I think the way we're going to do this is load the level based on the string name of the level instead of the index of the level, so that we know that the string name will never change unless we change it, but the index could change if we were to move a level to the 0 slot, to the 1 slot, to bump everyone up a whole index. And that would cause some issues for us if we had them all set in to load based on the index. So if we load based on the name and then never change the level names, then we should not have any issues. But the way we're going to be using an integer to load the string value is just concatenate the integer as a string to the level load method. And I'll show what that means here in a second. So now we're going to set up a void, and this is going to be an OnTriggerEnter. Well, no, not OnTriggerEnter, because then, well, I'll just show you. So if I do OnTriggerEnter, which we've used before, so we don't have to explain what this does exactly, but what it does, I will anyway, apparently. What it does is collider. What it does is detects whenever something runs into a trigger. So I'm just going to print hit. Click play. What's the object reference am I missing? Manager.component. Oh, the player requires the game manager to function properly. What does it use manager for? token count. Okay, so what we could do is go to the player and set up a uses. So we'll do a public bool uses manager, and we can set this to false for all the levels that do not need the manager, and all the levels being pretty much for now the world select level, but it'll work for now. So I'll do a if uses manager. If it uses the manager, then we need a reference to the manager. We also need to make sure that anything that makes a call to the manager, which seems to be just right here, so if uses manager, then we'll do this. Make sure we set that to default to true, as most things will be using the manager, but this one level will not be, and may in the future more things may not be as well. So I will go to the player and I'll say this level does not use manager. I'll make sure I clear that error, clear play, and run into that, and now there's no error, so that's good. And it says I hit. But the thing is that OnTriggerEnter only fires off whenever I run into it, right? So let's just see what that's going to do for us. So I want to be able to hit E whenever I am within the bounds, but OnTriggerEnter only fires whenever I run into it. So I have like a very, very small fraction of a second to hit E for that to count as me being within the collision, because it doesn't know when I'm inside the collision, it just knows when I hit the collision. So we have to do OnCollision or OnTrigger stay, and this will be constantly firing off as long as I am within the bounds of this box. And we can see that if I go here and click play, and it'll say let me run into it, hit, and you see the count going up here. Now I can make these not collapse, so we can see them just like that. So it's great. Now what I can do is I can say if, we have to check for input now. So I say if input dot get, what did I break here? Input. I gotta restart mono develop. It's being stupid again. I hate it. I just hate mono develop. God, I hate it. Okay, let's load it back up again. Zoom back in. And input. There we go. We're gonna get button down. And the button we're gonna be looking for would be, we'll make a button for action. So we'll go to our input, go file, or not file, edit, project settings, and then go to input. And I have action set up here. Now action will be used anytime we want to interact with an object in our world. We'll just look for the action key. I have it set up for space for the positive, which is the primary input. And then I have it for E, which is a secondary input. Okay? So I can hit space or E for this input. So we're looking for that. And when it does that, I just want to print something that will confirm that we are inside of the bounding box and hitting an input key. So click play, move into range, at my console, hit E. Hit E. Okay, I don't know what that was at first. I don't think I was actually in the game view. Let's try that again. There we go. And it does what it's supposed to do. Now, I want it to load a level based on the level to load. Fair enough. Go through the application class, we know that. Go to load level, we know that as well. But now, this will be a bit different than we've done in the past. We have loaded levels based on index, and we have loaded levels based on the string value. But now we're going to be using a string value called level. Now, why we're going to be doing that with a space, because all of our levels start with level space index, or level space number, not index. Don't get those confused. Sorry. It's level space number. Level 1, level 2, level 3. And then concatenate our level to load. We have to convert this to its string format, so we'll do toString. Make sure we convert that properly so that that can be stored within a string value. and that'll be level space 1. This will be 1. So level space 0, or level space 1. What did I say that for? And that will refer to levels, level space 1, then level space 2, then level space 3. And that's what it should do. We'll see though. I'm going to select my object here in the scene view and make sure I set this to 1, and it is. If I was to click play, run into this guy here, and hit E, goes to level 1. I want to make more nodes. I want to select that in the hierarchy, hit Control D. Then I'm going to drag this node, just like that right there, and make this one load level 2. Just change that one value, and now let me get it outside of that other bounding box though. And now that one value, when I'm inside of this, hit E, it loads level 2. Now we don't know that because we can't see that, so I'll go to level 2, make sure I save that, and I'll delete this wall here, and I'll go to level 3, make sure I save that and delete this wall here. So now all the levels are actually different. Save that, go to world select, click play, go to level 2 here, and we should have no left wall. And level 1 should have all the walls. E, E, E. Don't know if that was my fault or if that was the game's fault. Feels like it was the game's fault or my fault. Yeah, I think that was the game's fault. But before we end this part, I want to make sure that I have some kind of indication on the screen showing the player what level they will be loading when they hit E. Also prompting them that they can hit E at this point to load a level. So to do that, we will set up our onGUI method here to be void onGUI. And then we'll just set up a GUI.label, as we have done before. And the label will be a new rect. We'll just place this at the bottom left for now. And the value for the string will be a string we've not created yet. We'll create a private string. And then this will be load prompt. I don't know. And then we'll say that if we are colliding, we will do a load prompt is equal to, and we'll set a string here, and this will say something like E. Now if you're doing where they can have custom input values, then make sure you do that here instead of just having an E. And if you watch Total Biscuit, you'll know that that's a big issue that you don't need to be doing. So we'll do an E here, and again just temporary. So E to load level, then add a space. And then here I'll add the level to load to string. So in the end, we should get something pretty nice. It should say E to load level 1, level 2, level 3 in our corner here. So I'll do 30 off the left, and then I'll do 30 off the bottom, or about 30. We'll just guess for now. I'll do screen.height times 0.9. This will be 200 by 40. Then I'll pass the load prompt value. Just like that. Now, go back into here, click play, get in range, E to load level 1, E to load level 2. But notice that they stacked over top of each other because we are not clearing the value. So whenever we come out of the trigger, I want to get rid of that value. Whenever we leave a trigger, get rid of the load prompt value. And there's a nice method we can use for that. So OnTriggerExit. So whenever we leave this collision, whenever we get out of this collision, load prompt is equal to blank. Simple as that. Nothing more do we need to make this work for us. Boom, leave, boom, leave, boom, leave. Okay, and then walk over here. Notice that right there. No stacking because it gets rid of it. Level 2, hit E. Is it a frame rate thing? Hoping it's not. Hit E. Or am I just not hitting E properly? Maybe I should be checking for input within update. Yeah, I know I should be, because this works in fixed. So to fix that, let's actually Whenever we are colliding, I will set a private bool can load level or something weird like that, and then in a void update we'll do a if can load level and do something like this, and or we could just do if can load level and. So double ampersand is the way to say and when you're working in C# and many programming languages. So what this is doing here is it's saying I want to check to make sure this condition is true and make sure this condition is true as input. Grabbing input values returns a bool as well. So this will be true whenever the action key is hit and false whenever it's not. And this will be true whenever we collide with a trigger, any trigger at this moment, because there's no other triggers in the world to have to worry about. So we can get rid of this if statement and that if statement. And now if can load level and input not get button and blah blah blah. And now I'll say load or I'll have to set it to be true here. Can load level is equal to true, and then false here. So can load level is equal to false. Now I'm going a lot quicker in this video than I have in the past because all of this basic stuff we've covered. I'm just showing you how I would go about doing some of this stuff. So if you are confused, if I'm going too fast for you, ask me a question and I'll try to answer it for you. See what errors we threw there? None. Good. Stop that and click play. That still works. Now if I hit E, it works, but it should work 100% of the time now, instead of just sometimes, because I feel like sometimes before I would be hitting it and it wasn't registering as the it was based on the fixed time step for physics calculations instead of based on every single frame. Because if I have 65 frames per second and the fixed time step probably runs at around 50 frames per second, then it wouldn't be registering every single time I hit the key. And that was just causing a simple issue that we fixed by moving that down into the update. And that'll do it for this part. I know we didn't get much done, but I feel like this is a good start to our level load system. If you are interested in that Flappy Bird, or that Crappy Bird thing as I called it, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get that thing out on the website. I'll make a video on it, so I'll show you how some of the stuff works and show you how to use it if you want to make your own Crappy Bird game. But that'll do it for this part, guys. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Google+, all that's Awful Media, and check out the channel, subscribe, like this video if you like this video. My name is Austin. I'll see you next time.